From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to Kona. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
This is a phenomenal bike ride, and I can tell you he's so casual. This is his first time he's ever biked the full 112 miles here in Hawaii. He's never been up to the turn in Harvey. He's certainly been up there today. Doesn't he look...
Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from beautiful St. George, Utah. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, HOKA, Let's Fly, SFuels, Go Longer, Biostarks.com. Use the code BWB10 for a 10% discount. Quintanaroo, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zions Bank, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. I just met this young man the other evening at our little reception. His name is Robson Lindberg, our newest announcer on the Ironman team from beautiful Finland. How you doing, Robson?
I'm in awe. I'm on Breakfast with Bob. I've been watching your show since forever. So I'm awesome. Thank you. How are you?
I've been around forever, so that's that's pretty special. So I'm excited because 70.3 Worlds next year are going to be in your home country, in Finland. Are you guys excited?
Yes. It's a country with 5.5 million people.
Yes.
And we're very quiet, or that's what we're known around the world for.
Yes.
And then to bring a show like this to my home country for the second time in Europe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there you go.
We're all in awe. I mean, the Finnish triathletes have gone nuts, and fairly so.
With good reason.
Yes.
So give me a little bit about your background. You obviously grew up in Finland, and what were your sports growing up?
I actually, for the first 11 years, I grew up in the U.S., Germany.
Wow.
The UK, then Sweden, and then Finland.
Wow.
So
what took you around?
Dad's work.
What was he?
Mobile
Diplomat?
phones? No, mobile phones.
Mobile phones.
So I'm born in Finland. My brother's born in the U.S.
Yes.
My sister's born in the UK. And yeah.
and eventually you end up back in Finland.
Yes.
And what were your sports?
Motocross.
Okay.
Snowmobiles. Yacht racing. Dinghies. And then later keelboats.
I don't see a lot of endurance sports in there.
None. Because that was boring.
It was boring.
Yeah,
right.
For someone with a tendency to kind of want to move a lot, doing something that monotonous wasn't really in the books.
Adrenaline junkie. You wanted action.
Downhill, downhill biking, downhill skiing.
As fast as I can go.
As fast as I can go, as high as I can jump.
Yes.
I got my first twin tip skis when I was, I think, 12 or 13, and I broke a vertebrae when I was 13. So,
jumping?
Yeah.
But that didn't stop you?
No, that was a bump on the way.
But you were also playing hockey?
I started that when I was 20.
Oh, okay.
But everyone plays pond hockey in Finland.
Of course, because everything's frozen.
Yeah, most of the time it is. It's dark and it's frozen. And then you kind of flip the switch, and then the sun doesn't set at all in the summer.
Right.
And it's 30 degrees Celsius, and everyone's happy, and people actually smile.
Well, they smile because you could go sailing, and then you can go mountain biking, and you can do all that fun stuff for 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
That's the best. So you're playing hockey, I don't know if that was when you were 20 or later, but some big person who weighed a lot more than you checks you. Did he check you middle of the ice or against the boards? What happened?
It was an open ice.
Open ice. And just came out of nowhere and just leveled you.
No, it was shoulder to shoulder. It was a clean check from what I hear.
Okay. You don't remember any of it?
Nothing.
Okay.
I remember that I was at work that day.
And what were you doing work-wise?
Selling software.
Oh, good man. So you get hit. You don't remember a thing, which is probably a good thing that you don't have flashbacks because you don't have anything to flash back to. Ended up in the hospital, and what have you been told happened next?
they took a CT scan and told me everything was fine.
Yes.
And then they sent me home, and I went, okay, I'll go home. And then since my brain wasn't working, a woman looked at me in the eye and said, let's go home. I'll take you home. And I said, who are you? And she said, I'm your mom.
I'm your mom, and you
Yeah.
had no idea who she was.
No. As a traumatic brain injury patient, at least for me, the first thing you start doing is you start masking everything that's wrong.
Okay.
I've been injured before. I mean, that wasn't the first time my
Right.
mom picked me up from the hospital.
Yes. But you remembered her the other times.
Yes. But this was a different pain.
And the hard part about a traumatic brain injury, it's invisible. If you break your arm, or if you're in a neck brace because of a vertebrae issue, people know what's going on. With a brain injury, people don't know what's going on. What was the process in terms of, you were home for how long?
Well, it was, don't play hockey for a week,
Okay.
but go to work.
Yeah.
And naturally, well, the first two questions I always have to the doctors, it's pretty routine, standard by now,
Yeah.
is when can I work out?
Right.
And when can I work?
Right.
And they said, don't play hockey for a week, but you can run, swim, bike, and run. And, this was a Thursday. On a Tuesday, I was, that's when my memory started working okay. And I found myself on an airplane on my way to London.
And so, did they realize you had a traumatic brain injury?
No.
That they did not.
They
What
said
was it? That everything was fine.
Everything was fine.
So
Go home.
CT scan showed nothing. They showed nothing, no problem.
No, there was something, but
They couldn't.
it was go home, sleep, and everything will be fine.
But everything wasn't fine.
No.
And when did things start going south for you? Start going bad?
I noticed it because I came home from that business trip on a Friday, and I think I slept till Sunday,
Okay.
which is a long time.
That's a long time.
And I chalked it up to jet lag.
Sure.
So the 2-hour time difference.
Yeah.
You sleep almost 36 hours. And then I went for a 20-kilometer run with a few friends, and I
Yes.
thought, I've never felt this tired in my life, mentally.
Right.
The brain fatigue. My heart rate was normal and everything.
Yes.
And then 2 weeks after my hit, I spoke to a friend who's a doctor, and he said, nothing is fine right now.
He could tell.
He said, this is just not normal, because I couldn't, at that point, your brain's pretty smart.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's your brain.
Yeah, but your personality is pretty dumb. And, you go, no, I'm fine.
Of course.
But then you can't find your way to the grocery store. You can't have one light on at once at home, more than one light on at once more at home, because your eyes are so light sensitive. I slept either an hour or 20 hours a night. I couldn't really feel the right side of my body. I was never hungry. I wasn't hungry for 6 months. And then slowly but safely it starts shutting things off to go, hey, dummy.
Yeah.
So
So they're basically trying to give you a little bit of a, hey, here's a warning.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
this is not going to work for a while. You better go see the doctor.
Yeah, and I did, and then, everything took a long time. But 12 weeks later, I had an MRI scan, and they found 8 point-like brain bleedings, and I'm missing 20% of my corpus callosum, and I have a big brain bleed here and in the frontal lobe on the right side, and that explains the lack of motor skills. That's why I had to learn to crawl and write again.
So at that point, you had to relearn all of your life skills, all the skills you learned as an infant.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting to look at when you're 30,
Yes.
to look at your cousin's 3-year-old and go, that looks easy. But I can't do it.
So you couldn't crawl, you couldn't move.
I could walk.
Right.
This is the funny thing with the brain, right?
Okay.
I could walk. I looked like a very old man.
Okay.
And my right side kept, it was lagging.
It wasn't paralyzed, but it was
No,
slow.
but it was slow.
Okay.
So, you walk with
Yeah.
a certain...
A certain gait. And
Yeah.
so your gait was all off.
Yeah.
One side was leading, the other was sort of
Yeah.
following.
Yeah, and you can't, and it's that was the right side, but I'm left-handed. But
Yes.
I picked up a pen to translate a children's book for a friend.
Yes.
Which was probably one of the best decisions I've done in my life. And I just couldn't write. I could read, but I couldn't write.
So you had to relearn writing.
Yeah, the first day I got down 1 word. The next day I got down 3. And a week later I could write a whole sentence without lifting the pen.
Did you have somebody coming in to work with you on that, or are you doing this on your own?
20 neurologists told me to go home and sleep it off.
Sleep it off. Brain bleeds.
Because they said medically you're so far gone that there's no use in putting down financial resources on your rehab.
And they told you and your mom this?
Yeah.
And what was your response to that? They're basically saying, forget this guy, he's done.
That's exactly how it felt.
Yeah.
I somehow managed to get a degree in economics, so I was a write-off.
Right.
And it's interesting what happens when you're a write-off. And it's interesting what happens when, obviously, I mean, it's not the doctor's fault. They have a certain, I don't blame anyone for it. But you have a certain respect for doctors. They've studied for a long time. They can do wonders and so on. But I remember I was in the shower at Easter. We always do the same things with the family, the same boring traditions.
But that's what makes it family.
Exactly.
Right.
And this was a few months later after the check, and I remember I came home from the activities. Easter's 4 days, so the 3 first days I came home and I noticed that I was in terrible shape. I could be social for 10 minutes.
Right.
Before my traumatic brain injury, I couldn't shut up. I was,
Different person.
Yeah, and I cried my eyes out because I was so afraid. And the 4th night when I came home, I heard a voice that said, "What's up?" And I said, "Everything's fine." And I heard, "No, it's not." And I went, "Oh, that's interesting."
Who was that talking?
It was Robson 2.0.
That was basically you're talking to yourself, going,
Yeah.
"I need to turn things around here."
I need to fess up. That was basically it.
To admit that there's a problem.
Yeah, and I gathered, I think, all of the courage and the strength, and I faced my biggest fear, and I admitted to myself that I'm 30, which is scary at that point because
Right.
you're old, according to yourself.
Yeah.
That I have a moderate to severe traumatic brain injury, and if I believe the doctors, then I'm never ever going to do the 2 things I love in life, which is work and sports.
Right.
And I went, well, okay, fine. If they don't believe me, then, we rewrite history on a daily basis, and we write medicine probably on a daily basis. So I'm a write-off and nothing matters, so I don't have a goal and I need a goal. So I thought the first thing that comes to my mind is what I'll do. And the first thing was to win the championships in Hawaii.
The Ironman.
The Ironman.
Yeah, I've heard this a number of times where people are at the lowest moment of their life and going, where it should be, I need to put one step in front of the other, is I want to go to Hawaii and do the toughest one-day event on the planet and win it.
Yeah. And I thought, that must be really important if that's the first thing I think of.
Exactly, yeah.
And I chuckled and I went, okay.
And you hadn't done a triathlon at that point?
No, I had.
You'd done, okay.
I'd done actually the Ironman Finland course, which it is now. It wasn't an Ironman branded race back then.
But it was a full?
But it was a full.
Okay, and you completed it?
Oh, yeah. 10 hours, 14 minutes or something
that's
like
a real deal.
Yeah, I was self-coached, so I did a lot of mistakes.
Well, 10:14 is a real deal, though.
And I'd done 70.3s. I mean, back in 2012, I was really drunk at a bar, and I made a bet with an army buddy.
Yeah.
Everyone does the army in Finland. To do a triathlon, and that's where my endurance career started.
From a bar bet.
Yes.
Which is how the sport started, but yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I got to hear from you how it started the other day, and I that's something I'm going to remember for the rest of my life because I've been researching. It was so cool to hear it from you.
Yeah, it's a fascinating history, but the reality is that so many things started as challenges like that.
Yes.
So you had that Ironman background. You decide when you're at your lowest point, I'm going to go do the Ironman World Championships. So what happens next? Do you start training for that? Do you start learning to get your speech back?
Yeah. You're pretty naive at that point. So, I thought, okay, win the Ironman, fine, let's do that. And then I thought, a middle goal. So I decided to become the world's best traumatic brain injury patient.
Okay.
And then I went to sleep, and the next day I was like, lift a ton of weight off my shoulders.
Right.
And I had already been in contact with a really, really good physical therapist who had rehabbed traumatic brain injury patients for 16 years at that point.
Okay.
And then, we had started working a bit, but, it was still, and then he broke it down for me. We started with 10 minutes on a spin bike every other day, heart rate below 120.
Yep.
And added 2 minutes every other week, barred I didn't have any symptoms.
Right.
And it took me about 10 months to get to 40 minutes.
10 months to get to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But you were staying patient, which sounds like that was a sort of a challenge based on your adrenaline junkie background.
Bob, I'm the most unpatient person on this planet.
That's what I mean. So for you to stay patient on that is pretty amazing.
Well, you pay your dues.
Right.
And I at that point, it humbles you. And, it's so you kind of do what you're told. And that was basically the only thing I was able to do.
Right.
A day.
Right.
And I walked everywhere. I just try to walk everywhere, and slowly but safely, everything.
Get your gait back.
Your
and
swag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did you feel that you were becoming Robson 2.0, that you were getting your mojo back?
Christmas, I think it was 2019.
Okay.
When my mom said, we were at my godfather's house, and she said, I haven't heard you laugh like that for 3 years.
Wow. So it was a 3-year process.
No, it was a 5.5 year.
5.5 year process.
Yeah.
And now you're all the way back.
No.
You're still not.
I can't sit in front of a computer. I'm relatively pain-free if we compare it to what I was, but I've got 3 headaches every day. I've got this chronic pain in my legs for some reason, which on a good day is 3 out of 10. On a bad day, it's, on a bad day I can't get out of bed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, eyes are light sensitive, noise sensitive. I can get so tired that I don't know what the first word of my sentence was in a 2-word sentence.
Right.
But I think I speak a bit slower than I did before I got traumatic brain injury. But, now I feel I've got my sarcasm back, which
is good. It's important.
Spoke fluently before. And
you were fluent sarcasm.
Yes, which has been a big part of our family exchange.
Family dynamics.
Yeah.
This is someone who has to be the wise ass, and you were the wise ass.
No, we all are.
You all are wise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
I love
then
you all,
going
but
from somebody who's having problems putting words together to becoming an announcer for Ironman, that's a pretty cool transition.
Well, that's the thing. I shouldn't be anywhere, let alone here.
Yeah, but you are.
I am. And it was Antti Hagqvist who gave me a chance.
Yes.
I told a friend, Janne Kallio, who's been to Hawaii multiple times and done triathlon since the 90s. I told him that, look, tell Antti that if they need someone who can speak English at the first 70.3 in Lahti back in 2018,
you're the guy.
I'm and Antti calls me and says, we can't put you on the national broadcast, but let's put you on the Ironman.com live feed. You're an expert commentator.
Right.
And I said, okay. And he said, do you have any questions? I've got time for one. And I said, yes. What's an expert commentator?
That means, basically, I'll translate. That means fake it. Just make stuff up.
And he said, Google it.
Yeah.
And then he hung up. And I Googled it. And I'm a big Formula One fan. So I started watching the races because they start in March, right?
Yeah.
And I went, hey, wait a minute, expert commentator.
Yeah, okay.
So I wrote down what he did.
Yeah, and what'd he do? He faked it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, his engine's overheating.
Yeah. And then basically from there I went, well, okay, well that's good. Now I know what it does, Now
I better learn the sport so I can fake that a little bit.
Yeah, no, but I had been a triathlon obsessed fan since 2012.
You know all these guys, eh?
So I wrote down 12 pages of stuff I can talk about, disc wheels compared to normal wheels, frames,
wetsuits,
everything. And then we sat in a production meeting a day before, and they asked, how much experience people have from TV. And one guy went, "I've got 40 years. I'm retired, but I love helping out." And then the other guy went, "I've got 3 years plus school."
And you said, "Do I count right now?"
And I went, just don't make any noise. And then
You said, "Between the three of us, we've got 43 years of background."
And then just before we were gonna start the live feed, the guy looks in and goes, "You never answered the question." And I said, "I've done one interview."
Yes.
And he said, "Oh, crap." And then we started, and then I spoke like my life depended on it. And I had so much fun. And the 3 first females and the 3 first males came over the finish line, the pros, and they said, "Thank you, you're done." And I went out, and a guy who does a lot of announcing over in Europe, Till Schenk.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
I asked him, and I said, "Do you need someone, do you need any help?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, actually, Aki over there has to fix the sound a bit. So do you want to announce?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." I had never announced.
See, that's the deal.
And he gave me a microphone, and because I had been on the live feed, so he assumed that I can talk. I looked at him for half a minute, and then he nodded towards me, and I went, "Well, I've seen this on TV. I've seen, the
You
NBC.
watched Breakfast with Bob. Come on now.
Yeah, and the NBC show, and then, so I went, and from there it's history."
He's either in the water, riding a bike, or running. It's pretty easy to figure out, okay, he's going fast, he's not.
Yeah.
That guy's going faster.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
And
That's-
I had the time of my life on that finish line. I high-fived all the athletes, and it's easy for us,
Exactly.
They have their name and they have their country.
Come on.
As long as you know the flag.
Yeah. It's pretty simple stuff. It's not like brain surgery, which you, by the way, you.
I never had surgery, luckily enough, but
You had bleeds.
yeah,
10 of them.
8.
8 of them.
But
okay.
I mean, it is what it is. Apparently, I don't need those parts of the brain.
Well, you're doing amazing. You really are. And we're so excited to be going to Finland for 70.3 World Championships next year. It's going to be awesome.
Finland is, I look at it with different eyes since I lived abroad for
Right.
so long. But the lakes, the forests, the paved roads that are usually in awesome shape.
Right.
And we're known as introverts around the world, but if you make the time and effort to come to Finland,
Yeah.
people are so happy
Right.
that, it's,
Love it. Robson, thank you for taking time, but a pleasure to get to meet you.
Thank you for having me. I'm pinching myself still.
Robson Lindberg has been our guest, everybody. Check him out. You'll be announcing here this weekend?
Yes.
Love it. Where will you be?
I will be swim start, hot corner, finish line.
You're going to see Robson all weekend long. Again, thank you so much for joining us at Breakfast with Bob from beautiful St. George. That is a wrap for day 3. Hope everybody has a great race coming up on tomorrow or Saturday. And please check out our championship edition, which will be Sunday morning. Thanks, everybody.